on a sustainable basis, we need to ensure that our growth rate commensurate with the employment opportunity. So growth rate helps sectors, help market, and help country to grow. And inclusiveness ensure that the inequality on a sustainable basis is getting addressed.
Welcome to the new episode of Money Matters. We have with us Mr. Love Chaturvedi, ED and CEO Reliance Security and co-chairman Ocean Capital Market Committee. Welcome, Mr. Love, to Money Matters. Your story is Money Matters. So give us some time to go over his background because it's a very, very, very long list and quite distinguished, I must say. So Love leads the broking and distribution business of Reliance Capital, that is the Reliance Securities Group. He has been with the group for over a decade now and has made several valuable contributions to the franchisees. These include obtaining the CIC approvals for Reliance Capital, stake sale in the existing businesses such as asset management, incubating and monitoring new initiatives of the Reliance Capital Group, both onshore and offshore, strategic mandates for acquisitions, working closely with regulators and board members for robust policy, risk management framework, and governance processes across businesses. He plays a key role in guiding the Commodities Exchange Business ICEX, which is focused on converting to a universal exchange. Prior to joining the Reliance Group, Love has also worked overseas for over a decade, managing clients, building relationships, implementing technology and financial solutions to enable business growth. He's worked with IPS Sedenro, which is a subsidiary of FinServ, the Fortune 500 company in Scottsdale, Arizona, USA, at the senior management level, providing strategic and tactical consulting on balance sheet management to clients and assisting in the resolution of advanced analytical and policy issues. He is also a chartered financial analyst from the CFA Institute USA. That's quite a bit, Love, and it's really, really great to have you and talk to you today. We have been talking about the second wave, and there's a lot of news about how damaging it has been to everyone, and even we were talking about it some time back. So there is a lot of fear this time around. There is a lot of fear and uncertainty. And how should people manage their money? Because, last time at least there was talks about what can be done, what is going to be done and all of that. This time, nobody's saying anything. So a little bit on how do we manage money?
Thanks, Sindhu, for the introduction. It's actually a very straightforward journey, but yeah, when you put it in the context, it does sound a bit meaningful. But thanks for that. I still have lots and lots to do and a long way to go, a lot to contribute. So especially in these times. So I'll just specifically answer. That's a very good question. That how do you manage money in these times? See, in these times, one thing that anybody should refrain from is to make prediction. Is to time the market or make any prediction. This is the uncertainty of the highest order. In fact, I was just telling you before this that how this is in the midst of the biggest uncertainty that this country would have ever faced in the history, because it's only 75 years of independent history, and even before that, this is probably a bit of a crisis in that sense. The one thing that something to do is to continue. First thing is never predict anything and don't try to time. Don't try to say that it's that I'm going to time when the COVID will get over. I'm going to time when this will happen, that will happen. I'm seeing a lot of research reports that actually giving actual number of days that COVID will be hanging around here. I would just say that it's good to get direction. It's always good to have some direction because it adds to some stability. However, always continue with your discipline, continue with your rigor. There are two things. The first thing, what you should not do is don't predict and go and continue to be disciplined. Second thing that you must do is that continue your digital engagement, continue to be aware and learn what are the various avenues out there, continue to participate in the financial markets. As an ASSOCHAM, I can tell you that we have three key initiatives that we are working upon, which probably will help answer this question only, is that what is it that people usually, why they don't manage money well? overall, and then why it becomes more challenging during these trying times. And there are three things that actually is the key for this. It's very straightforward. It's for retail participation, which, by the way, India is still deeply underpenetrated in this area when it comes to financialization of savings. When it comes to people participating in the financial markets, the retail participation, we are way far behind than our potential. So what we need to do is we need to first have the ease of onboarding and ease of business. This is very important for retail, that it cannot be a convoluted, complex process that if somebody has opened a bank account, if somebody has done the KYC first time, there has to be some mechanism in some form and fashion that it can be used across financial service sectors, so that there is an ease of onboarding. That's one time, that actually the one KYC will probably bring that ease of onboarding. Second is the simplicity of the products. What simplicity of products means that there should be an equitable investment opportunities. Today, you and I can talk about what do we do to manage money, but if the avenues are disproportionate to certain segments of the people versus the other segment, then it will not help whatever I tell you. We have to have the equitable investment opportunities. And the third is to have the investors' trust. That is a sacrosanct. So if these three pillars are, and this is not overnight, this is not transactional, this has to be worked upon. So if these three pillars have been worked upon, people should ensure that they have a disciplined approach towards the financial market. They should try to participate on an ongoing basis rather than doing something. Let the volatility remain in market, not in your conduct. Your conduct should be opposite to that. It should be as smooth as possible. And then lastly, obviously your financial planning or your money management has to include some planning, something for these rainy days, or something where you may have to do few things, unfortunately, which is not adding to the wealth, not adding to the money, and you have to still manage your day-to-day. And there should be some planning done on that way. If these three things are been done, I'm pretty sure that any crisis can be managed. And like I was saying before, this too shall pass, and sooner than later.
Yeah, this too shall pass. I think that should be a motto for some time, at least now. And thank you so much for giving us these important pointers. But with the current lockdown, there are lockdown in different states, in different parts of the country, and COVID restrictions. How do you think is going to impact the corporate earnings recovery? Because things had slowly just started turning around, and now you have a lockdown-like situation. So it's causing a lot of unrest and a lot of confusion in that sense.
Good question, Sindhu. Again, let's get the facts first before we start some kind of prediction. The facts is that so far, whatever earning results we have seen is actually very heartening and very encouraging. Yeah, we have seen the growth of 15 to 25% earning growth. I will not name any particular company, but you will probably know that a lot of companies have already declared the results. There are a lot of other companies, the large companies, who still have to declare the results. And we are expecting that to be in line or maybe beating in expectations as well. So that may be because of the low base, or that may be because of a lot of resilience and the recovery that came up post the previous COVID wave, as if we may want to say it that way. But we definitely, and so that is what is the fact so far. Now considering the impact of the current curfews or the current restrictions which are there for the future corporate earning, that's what I was just mentioning you before this, that the resilience of the market, and resilience of the market is in a way is also the function of expecting the corporate earning not to get impacted significantly. If it's a May, June, July phenomena, and with the restrictions and with the vaccinations and with various steps that have been taken by various stakeholders now, if this is something going to go behind us from Q2 onwards, then obviously I don't see any impact at all. If anything, the resilience will go in a positive direction. However, if let's assume worst case scenario that is Q1 spill over to Q2 and it started taking some toll, then we may see some kind of correction of 10-15%. But even then, because it is a forward resilience, I probably would believe that over the 6 months that also will get recuperated. Only thing that the timelines may get shifted by 6 to 12 months. But if we are probably get back to the almost business as normal mode in next 2 3 months, then probably it will be where it is, with some slight correction here and there, but overall in the resilient upward trajectory.
When you look at the equity markets and when I look at the outlook, I want to understand your overall outlook and how much of volatility is expected and how long do you think it will remain? I know you did mention it's not good to predict, but if you were to give some estimate or some prediction, because everyone lives in hope, what do you see as a broader outlook for equity markets in 21-22?
All along, we were thinking that FY22 will probably around 16,000, 16,500, which is a decent return, right? Which is a decent 8 to 10% return in that trajectory. We would like to continue with that stand as is still. We have not changed that. Like I said, the only caveat is that we probably want to ensure that this is behind us sooner than later. But still, with whatever we are seeing, actually, there is a lot of encouraging numbers coming from Mumbai and overall Maharashtra, and we are seeing some kind of numbers plateauing and maybe correcting. I have no reason to believe that this will not be reflected for the rest of the country as well over next 4 to 6 weeks, maybe. So if I have to predict, which you have told me to, we will stand with what we have predicted even before the second wave came.
I just want to understand in terms of investing, what sectors and companies would you be keen to look out for, with this current second wave? What sectors do you think will get the tailwinds? What sectors do you think will be hit? Could you give us a sense of that?
It's very interesting that any sector view obviously is a function of the time horizon. Right. So let's take which sector have got battered the most. The sector which is hospitality, entertainment, right, aviation, some of the sector which actually got most impacted because of the COVID. If you really have a long-term horizon, you may want to allocate some of your money into this sector, because this is where everybody is saying stay away from it. I say if you have a 2-3 year horizon, and if you truly believe that this will be behind us, then that should be the sector which should give most returns, provided you have a 3-year horizon with some risk appetite and you do an allocation to this, not the entire thing, allocation. But that is maybe food for thought, for especially the young millennials or somebody who wants to, participate in the new growth trajectory which is going to come. That's a point number one. Then the point number two is, obviously there is the other real economy which probably is going to gain from the current momentum or the current situation or from the budget. And those will be pharmas, IT, infrastructure. Those are the 2-3 sectors that may be good sector where you want to allocate, where there will be an upside from the base is not that low, but there will still be some upside because there is a lot of activities in this space. And then there is a third group of sector that comes, which supports the real economy, which is a banking and BFSI sector. And this sector overall is positive sector, but my only request to the investor in this sector is please be more specifics in what you are picking, because the growth may not be as even across the companies as it may be in some other sectors. Here it may be more specifics to few companies, because this is about services, this is about finance, this is about track record. So there may be some K kind of a recovery is company specific in this sector, but it is a good sector to be at if you can pick some right stocks. And this probably will be my scheme of things for whatever you are allocating on the equity side. I hope that investors are still allocating on the other asset classes, because I always say, though I'm coming from equity should only be an allocation. It should never be the complete. You have to diversify. You have to go into the fixed income, into the other asset classes based upon your appetite. And please ensure that some allocation is being done across the board. And that's what I said, that there should be an equitable investment opportunity, because today, unfortunately, retail may not have that many opportunity in other asset class as they have in equity. And that will enable to actually make a good, robust portfolio for each one of us.
Just taking a small step back, you said you need to be specific when you're investing in the banking and BFSI sectors. Could you give an example of the specifics there of what?
No, I would, like I said, I would refrain from giving any company name, but I would just like investor to take cognizance of the track record, because one thing that we have to take cognizance is that these restrictions and curfew is going to bring some kind of stress into the book. We all know that. Now there will be some companies who probably would have managed it well with their diversified portfolio, with their processes and their accounting, which will be more prudent as compared to others. So maybe some with along those lines would be the better approach.
When we're talking about the impact on books and of the second wave and all of that, we all know that the impact of the first wave was really hard on the economy. How do you think the second wave is going to hit us?
It comes back to my first answer, like I said, that we will be resilient. I actually don't believe, though we have seen lot of, I think majority of the economists are predicting anywhere from 1 to 2% of the impact in our FY22 GDP. But I must say that FY22 GDP is not the only GDP which matters for all of us. It is the two things matter for all of us. The one thing is what is a sustainable growth rate. The 1 year here and there doesn't matter, and I don't see any impact on that number at all. If anything, it will be positive. Second, how inclusive is the growth rate? How people are getting employment? How many people who have been impacted the most in the first COVID wave, and maybe now second also? Are they now coming back into the stream? And that is very important. That inclusiveness of that growth rate, and I see that also. That's what I kind of mentioned. And though I gave a time frame also for that, but I believe some of those people who were in those sectors which got impacted the most, they should now come into this new GDP growth rate with those sectors recovering as well. So two things: sustainable growth rate and inclusive growth.
When we're talking about impact and if people recover from it, jobs was a big thing last year.
That's correct. That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
And that definitely, I mean, without any doubt, anybody could say this, that impacts the economy at large. What is your outlook to employment and jobs now with this wave and this year specifically?
The first thing, with the lower base, it will get better. There's no ambiguity in that. That there will be more job opportunities, there will be employment getting created because of all these initiatives that the government is taking from, that budget told us, all this infrastructure spending, all the, privatization, a lot of things will create more and more jobs. Again, I'm saying that this probably we have to, so one thing is that job opportunities and employment will be better than what it is because of low base. The more so is that on a sustainable basis, we need to ensure that our growth rate commensurate with the employment opportunity. So growth rate helps sectors, help market, and help country to grow. And inclusiveness ensure that the inequality on a sustainable basis is getting addressed instead of and unfortunately, this is one of those pandemic which has kind of created the bigger, unfortunately. Usually pandemic is a level playing field, but this pandemic is different. It has really created that K kind of a situation where few sectors are only up and the few sectors are down. So there is some leveling of that disparity has to happen over some period of time. So long story short, the employment opportunities will go up. Again, the sustainability of that will be the key, which will be the function of three key things. One is the COVID situation getting better and the restrictions getting easier. Second is the executions of the initiatives that the budget has laid out clearly for us as a country. All these execution has to be the key. And third is the global scenario and the FDI scenario, which is a liquidity scenario, is a third key lever for what we are talking about.
When you're talking about sectors and how the recovery of COVID will be, one important factor is the vaccination drive. And it has been announced and registrations have opened up for 18 years and above from May 1st. So I just want to understand how much of, hope, so to speak, the market pinning on this vaccination drive towards a market recovery, because vaccination, everyone knows now, is going to be the key thing.
You must have heard, I think probably a week ago, we were told that hopefully Maharashtra may get fully vaccinated around July, August. That's a big thing. Now, whether it's July, August or September, October, that is indifferent, but that means that there is a big drive to get the citizen vaccinated at the earliest. At least that is very loud and clear. And if that is what is going to percolate into reality. And again, it lies in execution. But from intent perspective, I think it is extremely important for the market and for GDP to have the vaccination done and being taken care of, so that it can help getting back to normality sooner than later. So I think it's, but again, execution, I see by September, October, this with this whole drive which is happening across the country, probably this piece also would have been significantly addressed, the vaccination part. So that, because this vaccination is a function of the restrictions, and restrictions then, and the relaxation of restrictions lead to some of those sectors which has significantly been impacted to start recovering. And that means that there will be more inclusiveness and more employment created. It's all connected.
As being in the markets for so long and working for so long in the space, I just want to understand if you have 3 key takeaways that you could like to give our audience and people that they should keep in mind with the second wave when it comes to investing or when it comes to equity markets.
So I would just like the 3 things, which is what kind of I always said, but I'll summarize that. The first thing, and I'm assuming the first thing is the health is the most important thing. Please take care of yourself and your loved ones. There is nothing can be more important in life than that. Like I said, I believe this too shall pass. We will come back, and we will come back strong, but take care of yourself and loved one. Second key thing is that don't get panic. There's no chaos. Please go with some level of wisdom. Please go with take your facts and ensure that once you have seen something factually, then let's start addressing them. So please be cognizant of a lot of things that happen around which may not be factual, and it's scary. I may go for another half an hour on this, but I will refrain. I will just say that please be wary of whatever is out there. It may not be true. And the third thing, please be disciplined in your investments. Please continue to do what you were doing. Have some asset allocation for your rainy days. Have something in the equity. Do participate in other asset class as well. And ensure that whatever you have been doing, you continuously do that as much as possible. If something has to be realigned with the new reality, just realign with the new reality. But please what I'm trying to say that don't put your all eggs in one basket in a way that now there's an opportunity of lifetime, let me go in and get a lot of money made. Please refrain from doing that. That's my 3 clear messages to everybody, and my request as well.
Thank you so much, Love. It was great talking to you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your valuable inputs. I hope people do follow all of them and all your advices.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Sindhu. Stay safe, take care, and see you soon.